Welcome back to Pathway to Leadership. We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Looks like we got plenty of people that are viewing. We got a few people in the chat. That's awesome. Hello, Angel. Hello, Scott. Hey, you guys, Angel and Scott, you know where I'm at. And let me tell you something. The rain is coming down. We need rain so bad. But let me tell you, It is moving. It's coming from the south. It's kind of moving a little bit north, and I know you guys are north of us, so hopefully it's getting to you. Angel, I know you work in sales and you work in outside sales, so I hope the rain doesn't stop you from doing what you're doing. So good luck to you. But I appreciate you being here. So those of you that are on the channel and not in the chat, if you'd like to join the chat, just a reminder, you have to be a subscriber. So go ahead and obviously hit that thumbs up button to let the algorithm know that we're here and we're a strong community of leaders. And subscribe so that you can chime in, because we're in questions and answers and having a conversation. Tonight we want to talk about problems. So let me preface this. First and foremost, everybody has problems. You have problems, I have problems. We come up on, every single day. So let's get that out of the way. We're all on the same foundation here. We all deal with problems. But what's most important is, how do we deal with them? How do we deal with them as an individual? And how do we deal with those problems as leaders? Because that really defines who we are. When everything is smooth and the ship is just running and everybody's doing what they're doing and there's nothing to distract us, hey, that's great. That's easy. But what is the true test of a person is how we manage problems. And there's so many of them that we deal with on a daily basis. So let's jump in. And I want to bring up a military reference. And I'm sure there's a few military people out there that are watching this today. We were taught to enjoy the suck. Not enjoy. Scratch that. Not enjoy it. Back up. Embrace the suck. Which is much different than enjoy it. Nobody enjoys the suck. But problems suck, and you need to embrace it. And I'll tell you why. Because problems are the number one thing that give us as leaders and us as individuals the experience we need to move into the future. So you think about that. Think of all the problems that you've had in the past, that you've learned from, that you've worked through, that you've overcome. That's a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience. And you get to take that with you on your journey every day and apply what you've learned to whatever next problem is coming. What I find interesting is, as a young man, some of the things I deal with on a daily basis today was absolutely huge. Was a huge problem back then. Now, maybe I become numb to it. Actually, thinking about it, I probably have become numb to some of these problems, as, it's just something that we deal with on a daily basis. I'm used to it. What frustrated me 10, 15 years ago, well, it doesn't frustrate me as much today. Maybe it's because I have experience. Maybe it's because I've learned to embrace the suck. I don't know. Why don't you chime in? Let's go ahead and throw out some comments into the chat and let me know why you think that is, that the problems that you're having today, which may be the same problems that you had 10, 15 years ago, don't seem to be as big and huge anymore. I mean, we learn from things on a daily basis. We learn from all of this. I'm going to adjust my mic here real quick. Let me get... So what I have here is I have my Shure microphone. My microphone? I must have disconnected my microphone. Oh man, I had such great stuff to say back then. It's just really too bad that you didn't hear it. Wow, thank you for letting me know. All right, so go ahead and let me know in the chat. Give me some thumbs up if the audio is working now. Everything seems like it's working. I moved that microphone. I guess that was the bad thing to do. So, yeah, so I'm going to back up a little bit because I think that was some great dialogue. we just missed a little bit of it. Okay. Let's see here. We were talking about Chrissy. Chrissy chimed in and she said, problems give you the opportunity to learn and grow. And I was saying that, yes, they do. And sometimes you get frustrated because when the problem's in front of you and it's a big problem, you're kind of like, I'm over it. I'm tired of learning and growing. And you get beat down. And the problem seems to be so big that you're like, seriously? Can I just have one day that I don't have to deal with this stuff? And as leaders, sometimes, I say it, I'll have coworkers in the past ask me, you seem to be a little distraught. And I try not to let my anger, get out in the workplace. And I'll say, yes, I am. And they're like, well, what's going on? And it's like, today I have to be dad for a bunch of grown men. And that can be frustrating on its own. And I'm sure many people, and Chrissy, no offense to you, I'm sure that sometimes you feel like you have to be a mom for grown people. But that's what comes with the job of leadership, right? It comes with it. Scott Dennis, you said earlier, the longer you are in leadership, the better you get to see and anticipate problems and put things in place to prevent problems. And that's such a true statement, because with the experience of problems, we can identify, like standing on the railroad tracks, things are starting to vibrate. Maybe there's a train coming. We might want to get off the tracks. I get it. I really do. Sometimes it takes that experience, and you have to unfortunately look at the problems that you're experiencing today and say, yes, let's connect the dots for the problems that are coming tomorrow, and maybe I'll recognize this in the future. That's sometimes it's just a hard pill to swallow, and I think you all agree. When dealing with problems, does anybody right now have like I want to say like a checklist? Do you have a mental checklist? And let me just tell you about myself personally. When I'm dealing with a problem, I don't have a checklist. I think the number one thing on my checklist is don't get angry. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. In my personal life, I usually get angry at my problems. In my professional leadership life, I don't. I try to dissect and go through the process. But does anybody in the chat have suggestions on when you're really faced with a problem? What are the things you do? Give me one or two examples of what you do when you're faced with a large problem, whether it be personally or in leadership. I'm curious. This is what this is all about. This is dialogue. Let's talk about this. How do we work through problems? And I'm sure you probably have a great idea that some of us have never even thought of how you deal with it. For me personally, the first thing I have to do is identify, is it a real problem? Do I have to deal with it right now? And tell you a little bit more while you folks think about it and put some items in the chat. Most of the problems that push me over the edge is when I'm working on a project, a mechanical or a project on the house. Okay. Let's say I'm fixing a window. You know, you think, okay, there's 4 screws. I should be able to take these screws out. Oh, great. 1 broke. Oh, great. 2 broke. Now I'm getting vice grips. Now I'm going through the frustration. And those type of problems really consume me. In retrospect, when in an organization and we're looking at problems, for some reason I'm able to sit back, not get emotional, and dissect it. So I don't know. Does anybody else feel that way? That, you know, when it's personal problems in your life, you tend to be so much more emotional. But why is it when there's a problem in the workplace or as a leader in your leadership role, you're able to have, you know, skills and everything to deal with it? Kind of seem like it's, you know, 2 different worlds. And I know, I'm sure it is 2 different worlds. Scott Dennis says, like you said, in leadership, it's so important to never let your anger or emotion guide you. That's tough, right? It is tough. Sometimes you put your head down and you go, oh my God, I have to be the dad for a bunch of grown-ass people. Why? And then you take a deep breath. And in my case, yes, I do think that a lot. But I take a deep breath and I say, you know what? If not me, then who? And that's sometimes powerful to make me snap out of it. If not me, then who? Who is better at this moment in time to guide these grown people in the right direction that they need to be in? Scott Dennis says, good to collaborate with your team, even if you have a solution. Oh yeah. Yep. But you know, I agree with that. When your team is a team that wants to be involved with the solution. Now, I happen to know Chrissy. Chrissy is involved with a team. It's a very large team. And sometimes that team wants to be part of the solution. Sometimes they want to turn off and not even collaborate or anything like that. So, Scott, you just reminded me of something. As a leader, it is our job to make collaboration a safe environment for everyone. And a lot of leaders, and some that we can't even call leaders, we're just going to call them managers and supervisors, don't facilitate that. As a matter of fact, they shut down input for various reasons. It could be for their own ego, for whatever reason. Okay, it could be control issues. But as leaders, we have to create an environment of collaboration. So if you watched the video that I posted earlier this week about problems suck, and, you know, it was just me talking, one of the things I say in there is that to solve a problem, you have to get to the people that are closest to it. And you have to dialogue with them. And I truly believe that the people that are closest to the problem are the ones that will help you, as a leader, develop a solution. And I truly believe that. I've researched so much on problem solving that seems to be the number one element right there. Investigate. You have to investigate what the problem is. Is it a real problem? Is this something that's going to continue? Is it a one-off? You know, a lot of times you have CEOs, presidents, owners of corporations. They have to deal with one bad problem and they entirely change the business model for something that may never happen again. I don't know about you, But that frustrates the hell out of me. So when you're investigating a problem, you have to ask the question, is this a one-off problem? Is it going to continue to happen? Next, I would suggest, who or what does this problem... Hey, I'm glad, you caught my eye there, Chrissy. You are absolutely correct. You might not even have to go further with this problem. If you consult the people that are closest to it, they may already have the solution. That is awesome. I'm glad you chimed in with that, because that was where I was going. I was going there, but you say it best. They may already have the solution. You don't have to go any further if the solution makes sense. Because again, the people that... Nobody likes pain. And if a problem is causing pain, believe me, you've got talent that is closest to the problem that are saying, hey, they could do this. Hey, they could do that. They should do this. They should do that. But on an everyday basis, get up, go to work, go home, go to bed. Get up, go work, go home, go to bed. How about get up, go to work, this major problem I have to deal with, go home, go to bed. And again, and again. They don't have that opportunity to talk to anybody. Maybe they've consulted with you that problem is there. But when you go back and talk to them because they're closest to it, Chrissy, you hit the nail on the head. They may already have the solution. So I guess the next question at that point is, what if they don't? Well, I think you're still going to have to collaborate with them, talk about it, find all the moving parts around the problem. Scott, you're going to love this. You and I talked a while back, and we were joking around about doing a video just about whose problem is it? Whose problem is it? And I thought that was brilliant when you brought that up. You see problems. Is it really important as leaders that we find out whose problem is it? Or as leaders, we naturally assume that we should look at that problem as part of ours, or take the responsibility of trying to solve it. And I think that is a video for another day. Whose problem is it? But it kind of segues where we're going right now, because you have to identify what department it bothers, who it bothers, all the other elements. I mean, is it a distributor that's, bringing in faulty parts or faulty procedures? Is it internal? Is it an HR problem? There's so many variables, right? The one thing that I can't stand is when a problem is brought up to a manager, supervisor, or leader, and it's brought across as a bad attitude. Well, they don't want to adapt. Suck is part of the job. You just got to buckle up, buttercup, and work through it. And I think one of the funny things about that is, if you work, so I'm here in Florida, okay, as many of you are. It gets darn hot down here. And if you're in a position where you're working outside, well, let me tell you, August can suck. All right? And when there's complaints about the heat, when there's complaints about uniforms, when there's complaints about how much work has to be done in that heat, I mean, that's real. That's real. It goes beyond, I'm just bitching, to, it's a real thing. But then you have the managers, supervisors, and leadership that turn around that might have been in that industry for years, and just because they did it, they dismiss it. They dismiss it as, well, guess what? You're going to have to buck up, buttercup, and deal with it. And that seems to be a cop-out sometimes. I mean, and I'm only gonna deal with heat. Heat you talk to your veteran employees and you say, well, how do you deal with the heat? You know, we have new people that are coming in and going to deal with the heat for the first time. What are your suggestions? How do we cope with this? What do you do? You know, you've been in the industry for 10, 18, 20, 25 years. How do you survive the summers? You know, those are the things that need to be taught to the new people so that when they come into that situation and they're like, oh my God, yeah, well, you know, you already have solutions available to them. So let me ask you this. I see in the chat, there are many leaders in the chat. If you don't mind sharing, what are some of the biggest problems in your professional life that you've had to overcome? And give me a step or two on how you took care of it. And I'll give you a moment. And I'm going to give you one of mine. One of the biggest problems that I had to face, and this was a personal problem, was when to make the final decision to let someone go. And I mean a person that's an actual problem for the company. To me, that's a tough one. And I did a lot of research. So we're talking about, oh, hi, Chris. Chris, hi, guys. I'm in the Charlotte airport. Oh, my goodness. I hope you're giving out business cards, Chris. That'd be awesome, right? Never know. Just joking. But no, good to see you here, Chris. If you're sitting in the Charlotte airport, maybe you got some time to kill, and hopefully we fill that gap for you between flights. But for me, it was, when is it the time to pull the trigger? I had to talk to a lot of people. It occurred to me that I had to research this, and I researched, and I finally came up with a solution. And I think a lot of problems can be solved when we personally take the time to actually seek out the solutions, and we do it in the right way. So I'm not saying that every problem has an immediate solution. I'm not saying that every problem out there can be solved. I mean, I know we hear that, right? I mean, is it really true? I'm going to ask you, Scott, Chrissy, Angel, Chris, school me. Is it actually true that there's a solution to every problem? I know I'm a Star Trek fan. I hear Mr. Spock say it all the time. For every issue, there's a solution. I don't know if that's actually true. Let me know what you think. Go ahead and pop it in the chat. Let me know if you think that there's actually a solution to every single problem. Scott Dennis says yes. There is a solution to every problem. Chris Tyrell says there can be. Okay. Who else? Because you know what? I'm on the fence. I really am. And in a minute here, after everyone chimes in here a little bit, I'm going to tell you why I think I'm on the fence. So one of the companies I'm working for right now has a problem with recruiting. What's the solution? Now, I think what you're saying here, Scott, Chris, Chrissy, Angel, is that, yeah, there's a solution to every problem. I think where this discouragement comes from is we haven't discovered it yet. And I think when you don't discover what the solution is, you tend to look at, how do we eliminate it? Chrissy says, I think so. Maybe just not one we may like. Haha. All right. So I'm going to keep that. Actually, I have the ability to highlight your comment right here. This is a new feature I've got. Okay, so Chrissy, I'm going to come back to that because you're on to something. So before we get to what Chrissy just said, because we haven't identified a solution, a lot of times we'll scrap a project, we'll scrap a course of action, we'll completely eliminate whatever process, product, personnel, employee, we'll just eliminate it because we haven't found a solution yet. And to me, that's kind of scary, especially with, let's just take a corporation that's got a cutting edge piece of equipment. They're making great sales. They found out that the equipment has a major flaw and they haven't been able to come up with a solution, but they're still selling them. They haven't come up with a solution, This problem keeps bothering them. And then they just decide at the top end of the company, we're just going to scrap the project. How about that with employees? Employee has a problem. We've identified the problem. We've worked with the employee. It's a great employee. But we haven't come up with a solution to this issue. Because we've spent so much time trying to come up with a solution, how many managers, I'm not talking about leaders, I'm talking about managers and supervisors just said, you know what, it's just easier to scrap the employee rather than keep focusing on how to solve this issue. It's sad. And now I want to touch base on that highlighted comment that I have on my side from Chrissy. Chrissy says again, I think so. Maybe just not one we may like. And that's very important. The solution might be right in front of our nose. Sometimes the solution may hurt, cause pain, cause more change than what we're willing to go through. And because of that, we don't really quite like it. Let's not even entertain that solution because there's got to be one that's easier. There's got to be an easier solution. There's got to be an easier way. Well, Chrissy, you're absolutely right. Sometimes the best way is the hard way, and you're not going to like it. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes you just got to embrace the suck. Stand up, brush yourself off, and say, yeah, I don't like the solution, but you know what? It's the best solution. And I'm just going to go through the pain and get it done. I like to use this analogy every once in a while, but for some people, okay, who are overweight, and I'm tagging in with Chrissy's statement, the best solution for being overweight is exercise, eating right, sacrificing, and all of a sudden making a determination to become healthy. That sucks. I've dieted. I've been on a diet. I've been on a keto diet. My wife has been on the keto diet. We have to make those sacrifices. Yeah, we have to embrace the suck because it is the solution for us, not for everyone, but for us. And it's not always the most fun solution to correct some of the issues that we deal with. So, I'm glad to see everybody in here. You know, we've got a lot of viewers right now, but for those viewers that aren't in the chat, you know, you can jump in the chat just by subscribing, and you can jump in on the conversation. I actually encourage you to come in on the conversation. So rain's coming down hard right now. I'm going to take a peek out the window. Yep, rain's coming down hard. I'm getting these little messages over here about my internet connection. I'm sure that has to do with the weather, so hopefully it's not bothering you too much. Just to give you a little insight, in about 72 hours, you should be able to go to Amazon and on Kindle and sign up for the Pathway to Leadership Training Manual. This is my commercial. Pathway to Leadership Training Manual. That book is available on Kindle probably Monday or Tuesday. So I would appreciate it if you go by there and take a look at that Kindle book and download it and help support the channel. And the paperback copy Should be out in probably a week or two. I'm getting the final draft sent. I should have that by Monday, send it back, do the corrections, and then have that out next. So the Pathway to Leadership Training Manual is becoming a reality. And to give you a little insight on that, you want to talk about problems. Here's a major problem. If you have ever tried to write a book, okay, it took me 4 years to write 30,000 words. And that gave me 100 pages. So it's a 100-page book, 30,000 words, 4 years. Wasn't easy. I had to overcome that. I had to come home. I had to sit out front. I had to sit there and say, you know, I'm going to write more on these subjects, and sit there and go through writer's block and try to have the inspiration. And those of you that have ever tried to write something like that, it's not easy. It really isn't. But here's my encouraging factor. Someone told me today, John Maxwell, if you know about John Maxwell and his leadership education, his first book was 160 pages. Everyone was so excited that he was coming out with a book, but they were so disappointed. It was 160 pages. It was a 6x9 book, very thin. And when asked about it, he said, I wrote everything I knew about the subject and I couldn't think of anything else. And so I published the book and I moved on to my next. So I hope you will all give me a little bit of grace when you do get the book and have a chance to go through it. And know this is my first, and a first of many books to come out. And I'm not putting a link in yet because it takes 72 hours for Amazon to approve the Kindle book. And once I have that link, it'll be in my videos and I'll put it in my descriptions. And then, of course, when the paperback copy comes out, I'll have that available. So, well, without any more to say, I think we pretty much touched really good on the subject tonight. I'm glad with the participation that we've had. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in. This was a great opportunity to discuss problems. Everybody has them. Nobody walks this earth without them. And if you think there are people out there with no problems, think again. I'm John with Pathway to Leadership. Thanks for joining us tonight, and I'll see you next time on Pathway to Leadership. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to leave the chat up just a little bit longer, so if there's any more conversation to be had, we can go ahead and still have a live conversation. I'll see you next time. Y'all have a great night.